So that kind of moves us into our next point. I'm wondering if I can hear a little bit about the values that motivate consistency around continuing to challenge your anxiety, particularly because all of you have kind of been working this system for a while now, and have kind of probably a sense of what your triggers are and a sense of when your anxiety is probably going to show up. So what keeps you motivated to challenge it on a regular basis? And when you get stuck, I guess the second question that you can answer at the same time is, where do you get stuck, and like, how do you get out of being stuck when that happens? So Patrice, can you go first?
I as far as value related, I value my relationship with my husband and with my all of my family. That's really important to me. And I'm realizing that when I'm really caught in my anxiety, and especially if there's a lot of catastrophic thinking or fear, that it kind of cuts off the natural flow of my relationships. I'm learning that it's not just about me, and that as I can care enough about myself to want to get better, that I believe that that's going to improve my relationships with family. And as like Jared mentioned, being self-compassionate, I think as I can be more compassionate with myself, it helps me to see other people maybe in a broader light and be more loving and compassionate to them. So that's another thing that keeps me motivated, that, to keep moving towards my anxiety, not to run from it. And even to now, I think I'm at a point now, as I learn more, that I can challenge myself more easily to take the next step, to like be curious, but really make I'm trying to really look at what exposures would help me so that I can keep moving forward, with the idea that it's not just me, it's going to improve my life and my friendships and my family relationships.
Yeah, I'm really happy to hear that. And it seems like you've really embodied the spirit of exposure practice, which is not just something that you have to do like because your psychologist told you that that's going to help you overcome your anxiety, but rather it's something that you're actively seeking out so that you can relate to your anxiety even better and better for the sake of your relationships.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, happy to hear that. Thank you. Jared, can you go next?
Yeah, I mean, the first, just as I mentioned before, self-compassion was definitely one of those values that I find very important in my life. And the second thing is I don't know if I can consider this a value, but, just having a routine on a consistent basis has really, that really kind of changed the way, just my lifestyle, just having my dog around. My dog is actually a big reminder of, needing to take him on walks and stuff. And so, these little things that I hadn't done before has really just kind of shaped the way of how I, just have to consistently like motivate myself. So, yeah, just those are the things I can think of at the moment.
Yeah, that's a really great point, that if you don't already have structure, even if I know there was like some obligations that you had before, but maybe not the structure that you've now put in place, whether that's caring for yourself or another animal, but like eating at regular times, sleeping at regular times, exercising, meeting other social obligations, all those things can be really, again, positive reinforcing, and then can help you stay motivated to do the challenging work of relating to anxiety effectively too. So thank you for that example. Scout, can you go next?
Yeah, I think for me, it's similar to what Patrice said, which was that I valued my relationships, and specifically with my wife and my daughter, and also my job or my clients. But there's a piece of that feels like those are the commitment that I made, is a value too, that because I made a commitment to get married, to have a child, to be there for my clients when I said I was going to, that's very important to me. So that helps me kind of move forward with my day, even in a lot of distress, which OCD can create sometimes.
Yeah, so it sounds like it isn't a perfectionistic, like I need to be perfect for everyone kind of thing, but rather these are commitments that I've made out of my values that I really care about my family and my clients, and therefore you like want to show, even when it's challenging, you really want to show up for them.
Yes.
Yeah, happy to hear that. That's great motivation. Sophie.
Yeah, I think for me, it's like kind of what everyone just said too. And I think it's like you can find out more about yourself, kind of like what Patrice was saying. But like, I don't know, for me, I remember this like very permanent type thought that when I was really in the thick of like anxiety and OCD, where I was like, oh, I have to like be a good person so that like if I were to do something to harm somebody, like they wouldn't believe it because they think I'm such a good person. And that like thought fueled a lot of my decisions and my actions for a really long time. And so I felt like once I was able to work through that thought and like kind of disassemble it and like learn what OCD was and learn what like harm, OCD is, it was easier for me to actually be like, oh, like, why do I want to be a good person? Or things like that, or like, what does it mean to be a good person? And not just like fueled by anxiety. And it's like very, I think, comforting when you like are able to start making decisions for yourself instead of like it feels very compulsive to like make decisions about who you need to be and what you need to do. And I also think too, like I'm in healthcare. So for me, it's like, okay, well, I went into healthcare, like everyone writes on their like admissions things, like I want to help people, but then it's like, okay, like why do I want to help people? Like, when it's not fueled by like harm OCD, why do you want to help people? So it's different.
Yeah, can you actually like say a little bit more about that so people listening can understand? Can you be more specific first about what you mean by harm OCD? Like what type of intrusions would you have?
Yeah. I mean, and I don't want it to seem like I used to have these intrusions and now I don't because I get like thousands of them every day. So it's like definitely not like this is past tense, but a lot of them that I have are like around harming other people by like, my family because of contamination related things. I had a lot of content. Like if I were to get HIV and then use like a towel on accident from one of my family members, then they would get HIV and that would cause them potentially distress or like loss of life or something. I get harm related OCD with patients as far as like, oh, if I don't do this intervention or if I do this intervention wrong or I don't give them the care that this person needs or deserves, then they will experience, being sick or being in pain or death or something like that. So I think those are the kind of intrusions I have. I get them around my dog, around pretty much any time that I'm in any position to care for somebody else who's like vulnerable or who like I feel like deserves care, or warrants like goodwill being shown towards them. And I guess harm OCD to me means like that you have a lot of anxiety around like whether an action that you do or don't do will cause distress or affect somebody else.
And then can you tell me the difference between the compulsive sense of like, I have to be a good person as a compulsion versus wanting to be a good person based on your values?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was compulsion because it was driven by this like anxiety I had around wanting, I've had pedophilia content in the past too. I've had, like I said, contamination around harm. So I just wanted to be like a really good provider and a really good, babysitter and a really good, caretaker for my dog or whatever, like, so that if anything ever happened that I had done to harm, I put that in quotes, somebody, that like they wouldn't believe it because like I was such this good person to them. So it was like very compulsively driven where like I would, go above and beyond in actions I made, like, oh, I need to be extra safe that this intervention is okay. Or I need to be extra, aware of my actions that I do, whatever I'm doing, just because I needed to be so like careful around them and purposeful, versus like not being compulsively driven to be a good person is just like, oh, I got up today, I could wave at that person, so I'm going to, it's not like, oh, they could give me HIV, but I'm going to be careful and say hi. I don't know. It's not a great example, but it's just hard to like seeing people as like the compound of like their germs and like negative things and like the things that you have to do to like protect yourself or do with them so that they can see you as a good person versus like just seeing people as people that are like interacting with you like incidentally, that you don't really have any control over how your interactions with them go.
Yeah, it's actually a great example that one of the small moments that can occur when you're not bracing and like living in fear all the time because of anxiety and OCD, that just like there's another person I could say hello, is like a small moment of potential happiness that isn't available to you as you're bracing or like trying to live by OCD standards according to something you could potentially do wrong. So thank you for everything that you just shared. That was really helpful.